Hi everyone, welcome back to the second episode of our Webflow optimization course. So previously we've been covered how to optimize a font, right? We have reduced our Rubik Google font from 129 kilobytes all the way to 20 kilobytes. And now in today's episode, we are going to build a custom but basic design system for our website. Okay, so with that being said, let's roll the credits. Optimization is all about creating reusable components and making sure you build a library of elements you can reuse. Now, I already know that we have inside the Webflow, we have symbols, but remember that Webflow relies on HTML structure. So what we're gonna do next is we're gonna have a look on what elements we have inside our design. So we will need to create basic elements for our container, for our logo, for our links and buttons, for our text, and also for what else we have on the site. Okay, let's dive into it. So I'm having my Webflow right here, and as you remember last time in my previous episode, we've uploaded the Rubik font. And now let's click on the designer. So what I love to do is I go to page right here, I click on plus, and I do create a new page. Now my new page can be named design system, and the first thing is obviously my container. So I'm having a container of 1200 in width, so I'm gonna do div block, and I'm gonna add a class. And throughout this course, I'm gonna use a couple of hotkeys. That's gonna be Command A to open quick find inside the Webflow. The second one will be Command Enter to quickly add a class to my div block or to my element. And lastly, it's gonna be Command Shift A to create a symbol out of my selection. Good. So with my div block selected, let's create a basic container. So I'm gonna add a class right here. I'm gonna say container, and it's gonna be limited to 1200. And I'm also gonna click on this magic button, which will add auto margin from the right and from the left, and this will adjust to the center my div block. Good. Now I'm having my basic container. Let's click on the body one more time, and let's add our heading levels. So heading, we're gonna start with the first heading, and let me go back to my design right here. Good. So I have, let's say, one heading level right here, which is H1, and then I'm having a couple of H2s throughout my website. And I also can say that maybe when we'll start doing the CMS, I'm gonna have some H3 levels. So just keep in mind that your web page should have only one heading 1, so one H1 level. That's important because when Google go out and scrape your web page, it looks for just one H1 level. That's super important. So your page should look, as an HTML code, should look like a Word document. You have your H1, and then for chapters you would have H2, H3, and then the body text. So I'm having my H1 right here, and that's gonna be Rubik 62 pixels. So let me go back to my Webflow project, and before I would ever edit my H1, I wanna select my body. I wanna go to my selector pane right here, click and choose this say pink thing. So this will choose my global body tag, and within my global body tag, what I want to do is I want to select Rubik. That's my custom font that we previously in previous episode we have optimized. I want to set the weight to auto to normal and the size will be 16 and 24. Now these properties should be basically from your paragraph text. So let's say right here I'm having this paragraph, yeah, and as you can see it's Rubik 16 pixel regular. So you want to make sure you have the same thing for your body tag. Okay, so I'm having these basic properties. I think that we can also change the color to black. So black. Good. Now let's select back our H1. Let's click on all H1 headings to edit the global H1 tags, and let's make sure that so we can do reset the font. So it takes the font family from the body, and it's gonna be width, I think it's medium. Let's have a look. So we go back right here on the top, and we can see that it's medium, 62 pixels. So medium, we set it to 62 pixels, and for the line height usually is double the size, so I will go with, let's say, 72. Good. Wonderful. Now I don't want to apply the white color because later on I can create a combo class to it and modify just the color simply by this combo class. Okay, so I'm having my H1 level. Now what I also want to do, usually Webflow adds margins, so I want to make sure I reset these margins, set them to 0. So from the top and from the bottom. Good. Let's drop another heading right here. This is going to be H2, and as you can see, my headings take the font family from the body, and this will be H3, and we also have our paragraph right here. So with my H2 selected, let me do a reset to reset my scale. With our H2 selected, same thing, H2 headings, we reset our margins, because remember later on we can add a combo class and control these margins, but we want to make sure we have control over these types of features. Click on the font and then click on reset, and this will reset to the body font, which is Rubik. Now for the weight, let's do reset and see. So it's bold. If you do remember, in the previous video we've been talking that you don't need to add bold because Webflow automatically can add bold to it, right? And basically it makes your font with the tag strong. Now because my H2 it's medium, I do believe, let me have a look right here. So this is 40 pixels, this one it's also 40 pixels, so 40 pixels medium. So with my H2 selected, I'm gonna say 40 pixels and gonna be 50 pixels. Good. And my weight will be medium. Now I'm gonna do the same for my H3 heading right here. The last thing in terms of text, I have my paragraph, which is basically my body. So same thing here, I select my paragraph, global tag, I remove the padding because one more time you can control this padding by adding a class, a combo class. So let's say 0. And then all the rest remains the same. Now if you want, you can definitely add some more line height, so let me add just a little bit more line height so it's really easy to read my body text. Good. I also noticed that I haven't removed my margins from the heading level 3, so let me do 0 and 0 from the bottom. Good. So I have my text right here. Now the next thing I want to do is obviously my buttons. So I have a couple of button variations right here. I have solid buttons, I have ghost buttons, and I also have these buttons right here that have this arrow key or this arrow icon. So what I'm gonna do is, with my body selected, I'm gonna say, hey, I'm gonna do a link block. Why we're doing a link block? Because inside my link block I have a text and I have an embed SVG, and we're gonna cover how to add embed SVG and how to optimize that SVG in a moment. So that's why, guys, my single request to you, please follow along with me. Even if you know these tips, trust me, you'll learn something new, and there's basically a reason why we do optimization while we are building out our Webflow project. This is important. We don't want to do optimization when we finish up our Webflow project. We want to make sure all the optimization happens at the same time we do develop our Webflow page. So with my link block selected, let me just simply add the components inside. So we have a text right here, and let's start with this button right here with the arrow key so I can show you how to optimize SVG icons. And I'm gonna select my link block and I'm gonna drop an embed right here. Good. Now for my embed, before I would ever drop my embed right here, let's add a class to my link block. So usually I go for btn, which stands for button. That's a mnemonic way of naming your classes, so that's gonna be button. And as I can see, the display is set to flex horizontal, so display flex horizontal. I'm gonna align it to the middle, and I'm gonna click on justify and, because I want my text to be on the left and my embed code, my arrow key, to be on the right. Good. What else we have here? Now usually what I also love to do, instead of just adding the padding inside my link block, I love to also have the height. I want my button, all of my buttons, to be consistent across all the pages. So this button right here have a height of 65 pixels. I'm gonna say height 65 pixels. Good. I also add a little bit of padding, because if I don't have any padding, Google will give me accessibility issues. It will tell me that, hey, you don't have padding and it's really hard for the user to click on this button, even if you have height. So let me add just a little bit more. So usually it's the power of 2, so 12. And also gonna do the background color. So we have this background color, which probably later on will change, because I think this color, the background color along with the white of the text, will give us accessibility problems, the contrast ratio. So let me do the color right here, and I do believe I also have a border radius of 2 right here. So border radius 2. Good. Wonderful. Now the next thing before, again, I would add my embed, is to define the text inside my link block. So how the text should appear. So I know it's white, so I'm gonna do white. And I also know that the decoration has to be set to none, so I don't have that underline below my text. And what else? I know that it's all caps. So when you design your project inside Figma or Adobe XD, please don't click on the caps lock and make everything in caps. No, just use normal text, so small caps, and then if you're using Adobe XD, you can click on this uppercase, which will make the entire text all uppercase. So I'm gonna do the same inside the Webflow. Let me just copy this download PDF, and as you can see, when I'm pasting back, it's small caps. Now this is important. Google don't like when you have all caps. Okay, so what else? So we know it's all caps. So I'm gonna go on the typography with my BTN selected and click on more type options. I'm gonna click capitalize all caps. I also know that the font weight is set to medium, so I'm gonna do weight medium. What else we have here? And for my font size, it's 16. It's inheriting from our body. Good. Everything looks fine so far. So let's click on our HTML embed inside our BTN and let's type enter. Now let me show you how to optimize an SVG icon or SVG illustration. So Adobe XD have a really nice feature, which is optimizing an SVG. So what I'm gonna do for the icons is I'm gonna select my icon right here. I'm gonna click Command A to open up the export dialog, and I'm gonna make sure I choose SVG, and for the file size I'm gonna choose optimize. Now what this will do is it will remove any IDs and any attributes inside my SVG code, and you probably guys know that an SVG illustration is basically an HTML code. So with the optimize selected, I'm gonna click export, replace. Good. So here's my icon, and it only have 1 kilobyte. Now the next thing I want to do is I want to open it up inside an HTML editor application. I'm using Atom. Okay, it's right here, and I want to leave the width and the height as it is, because later on my embed code div block will be set to display flex, and I want to make sure I don't kind of break the or skew or stretch my icon. So I'm gonna leave the width and height as it is. But one more thing to note here, you have this fill attribute. I want to remove this fill attribute, and I'm gonna add it right here. So fill equal, and I'm inside this attribute the value will be current color. Now what this means is this SVG icon will take its color from the font property, from the font color inside that embed code. So let me copy and show you how exactly it's working. So copy to my clipboard, going back to the Webflow and pasting the custom code, save and close. And as you can see, we have our arrow, and it's white, not because it was white in Adobe XD, but because it takes the color from the BTN. So when I'm changing my button color, as you can see, it's being reflected also on my icon. So let's make back to white, and that's simply because we have applied that fill equal current color. Good. Now last thing is I want to add a class, so let's say BTN arrow and hit enter. Good. Now my arrow have a width and a height, and usually in web you want to make sure your icons, now well, that's good to have all icons at 1:1 aspect ratio, so let's say 24 by 24 or 48 by 48. But as you can see right here, I'm having the width it's 8 and the height it's 22. But because I want to show you why we actually had this width and height, let me go back and do all by the rules. So with my embed code selected, I'm gonna set the width to, let's say 24, and the height to 24. Good. But you might know that despite the fact that I have now a 1:1 div block right here, my arrow, my SVG code, it's not properly aligned. So I'm gonna choose display flex, and I'm gonna align to the middle. And as you can see, it does align, right? And it aligns without skewing or breaking up my code, because we maintain this width and height. So I think I'm gonna start with this one right here. So again, it's 60, 65. And what I want to do, because it's another variation of the button, so it does not have this icon, I'm gonna do a simple BTN. So button, good. And I'm gonna add a class BTN, and I don't know, let's say BTN simple. Yeah, I think that's good. So BTN simple. Now we know that the height is 65, and I want to make sure I add the same padding, so it's 12 from all the corners, so 12. Let me just copy this text from here. Let me paste it right here. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to more type options, and I'm gonna choose all caps. Good. For the width, I'm gonna choose medium, and I think that's all. Great. So we have our second button. Well, actually, I think that one more thing we forgot is to add our border radius. Wonderful. Let's copy this BTN simple and let's paste it one more time inside our body. But for this time, I'm gonna go with a combo class. I'm gonna say BTN simple ghost. Ghost because we only have the border right here. Now usually when you create borders inside your button elements or wherever UI component is, the border usually in web, they're being pasted outside of the box. So that's why we need to click our first class, and we want to add the border right here, and the border pixel should be equal to this border pixel right here. So it's 2 pixels. It's 2 pixels right here, so we add 2 pixels here also. Good. Now my ghost button, it's inheriting the border from our first class, which is BTN simple. And with my BTN simple ghost, with my button that have a combo class, what I'm gonna do is I will simply remove the background color, yeah, and I wanna select a different color. So let me say black. So I override the default. Good. It's looking good. I think it's looking good. Now you can add different hover effects if you want, but that's not the case for our tutorial series. Good. So the next thing that you'll probably want to do is to add your logo. And usually I have my logo, I have my container, I have basic text, heading levels, buttons, and from there I can develop my site. So we're having our logo right here, and now this logo have multiple layers. So all the letters are independent paths, and this logo mark also have a border. So we want to make sure we remove all of those additional features inside this SVG. So the first thing we want to do is we want to export our logo. So I'm having my logo folder right here, which have all of these paths. Yeah, and I'm gonna click one more time, Control A to export. I'm gonna choose SVG, but this time without clicking optimized. So with this in mind, I click export, and as you can see, I'm having my logo right here exported. So the next thing I want to do, I want to open up my SVG inside my Affinity Designer. And remember, you can use any SVG editing software. You can even use Illustrator if you want. So now I'm not with Adobe products, I'm only with Adobe XD. Anyway, so with my SVG logo opened inside Affinity Designer or Illustrator, what we want to do is we want to optimize all of these layers right here. So first of all is I want to choose all of my letters, and I want it to combine in one single path. So with all my letters selected, I'm going to click on this add button to make one big combined shape. And as you can see, I'm having path 1, and let's name it this letters. And also let's deal with our logo mark. With our logo mark, it's a little bit trickier because we also have a stroke. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna go to Affinity Designer, to the layer, and then I'm gonna click on expand stroke. And from there, I wanna choose my expanded stroke along with the original solid shape. So both of these selected, and I would click one more time on add. This will combine together my stroke and my solid shape. And then if I'm zooming in, you can see that we are having some issues right here. And if you do remember from our course on the font optimization, now every SVG illustration is being built up from points and curves. And we want to make sure we remove all the points and all the curves we're not going to use, because every of these elements, every of this point, all of these curves, they're a bit of information. So let me remove these. Let me see, we also have this one right here. Even if it's small, trust me, it still counts. Let me choose escape to exit the shape editor. And I think that right now what we're gonna do, we're gonna combine our logo mark with our type mark. So one more time, finally we click on add, and we have one big SVG. Now from there, if you're using Adobe XD, you can simply copy your SVG from Affinity Designer or Illustrator, and you can paste it inside your Adobe XD. Good. Let me actually paste it right here, and maybe outside of my canvas. Yeah, right here. Good. Now, as you can see, it's inside this group I have only one big path, and I usually do Command-Shift-G to ungroup my path, because that group will also count in my SVG code. So with my logo mark, with my logo right here selected, I'm gonna hit for the last time Command-A, and I'm gonna choose Format SVG, but this time for the file size I choose Optimize. And then let's see, let's click on Export. The last thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up my optimized path. I remember it's optimized not because of the size, but because we have removed those additional groups and layers and combined everything in one big path. I'm gonna open it up inside my Atom. Now Atom is an HTML editor. You can use Visual Code, Sublime Text, any tool out there that do open up the SVG. And what I want to do inside is I want to click on View, toggle Soft Wrap so I can see my entire code. Now my code have this fill, and if you do remember from our arrow, we have talked that we wanted to remove our fill, and I'm gonna add it right here. Fill equal, and in quotes I'm gonna say current color. Why so? Because I want to control the color of my SVG logo from the font's panel from the font color. Okay, I'm gonna leave the width and height as it is because I don't want my logo to be sketched, skewed, and anything along those lines. So with my code selected, I'm going back to my Webflow, and usually the logo will redirect back to the home. So what I do is I create a new link block right here, and I add the class named brand, right? And inside my brand, I add another embed code, and inside this embed code I basically paste my logo SVG code. Click save and close, and now you'll have your logo right here, and the logo will inherit the color from the brand link. So what we can do now is we select our brand, and from here we can control the color. See, we can control the color of our logo. We can even create a really nice interaction with this hue going up and down. But anyway, just for the sake of this presentation, let's go to black. And yeah, nice quick tip right here. You can go to hover and add different hover effects. But anyway, so we have our brand right here, and I'm gonna do actually a little bit of padding because every element needs a little bit of padding, and because it's a power of 2, I'm gonna leave it as 12. So why 12? Because when the mouse will get in this padding inside this box, the user will be able to click and get back to the home. Good. So as you can see, if I go to preview, because I have this padding, it's like a lot easier right now to click on the logo and go back to the home. Small thing, but trust me, it pays a lot when it comes to accessibility, especially on the mobile. Good. Now we defined our logo right here, we added some padding, and now what we need to do is make sure our logo is centered on the middle of our brand container. So with the brand container selected, I'm gonna say display flex, and I'm gonna align it to the middle. Don't worry that everything takes full width, because later on all of these elements most probably will live inside the div block with specific display property applied to it. Good. Now the last thing you would want to do with this brand is every link block should have a text inside, so Google knows what this link is about. So inside our brand, I'm gonna add a text block, and this text block will say back to home page. Now this is super important, guys. This is important because that's why inside the Google Lighthouse audit you guys have this problem with links does not have descriptable name, right? Simply because your link blocks only have images but do not have text inside, so that text could explain to Google bots and to different browser what it is inside that link block and where it will redirect. So you have this back to home page. Don't go with click here, or go with something more specific like back to home page or take me back to the home page. Good. Now what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna select my text block, and I'm gonna add a class. So let's say link hidden. So we're gonna hide from the user this text. Now remember, it's just a CSS property. It's just a display set to none, but in reality inside your HTML, right, this back to home will still be visible to bots and to accessibility features of your browser. Good. So being said, that's all I wanted to cover. Now we also have to cover links and specific containers, but this is a basic structure, a basic design system that later on you will use inside your Webflow project. Being said, I hope this video was super informative for you. Now this is important, guys. One more time, it's important to have a design system before you would ever create your Webflow page. And even if we talk about really big projects, you still need to have a design system. I'm gonna drop all the information inside the description, any link, any reference. If you wanna go out and watch my next episode, which probably gonna be about, we're gonna start about building the navigation and the header, then make sure you do subscribe to my channel, hit that notification bell to be notified on your mobile phone when a new episode is being uploaded. Love you all, bye bye.